What's up, everybody? Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are at. We're doing something a little bit different today, with the harder dungeons, I guess, right around the corner. We don't know specifically how hard they're going to be, or if they're going to be nerfed. But I wanted to do something from a perspective, and just basically do some synergies. Talk about each character, who they synergize well with, this, that, and the third. If the dungeons end up being difficult, I think the ideal team comp would be two DPS, two support. And so, with that being said, the DPS that you bring, it doesn't matter. I don't care what DPS you bring. This is specifically a support video. So, keep your DPS out of it. We don't care. we don't care. All right. So, with that being said, we can talk about, I guess, the king of support. You can fight me on that, Eugen. He really doesn't need anyone to synergize with. It's nice to have other people to help him, but if you were going to take Eugen into a dungeon, the characters that I would pair Eugen with would be Luna, Enzo, and Ajax. Those would be the three that'd be ideal to run with Eugen because they provide something else outside of what his kit does. You could take Jaber, but since they both heal, it kind of, Jaber's turret heals. His other turret is nice for extra DPS if you want to do that. But Eugen can heal. He can do a damage amp with his two. So it kind of, you kind of don't need both of them in there. You could take Kyle, but he's more focused on regenerating shields, and he has, his little berry that he puts up for X amount of time and then it goes away. Whereas these other characters, they can provide buffs and not have to sit on top of Eugen or be stationary. So that's pretty much where he would be if I was going to take Eugen. Now, the the king, I guess the king and queen, essentially, the queen buffer, who gives you everything you would want for DPSs, and DPS's wet dream, Luna. She basically, it doesn't even matter who you take with her. Jaber's nice. Jaber, I would say Jaber's probably step below, once again, because of the fact that the turret has to be stationary. So you end up putting yourself in danger if you have to do your buff rotation, because you have to stand still and doing the whole animation, how she throws up her hands. And so you run the risk of getting shot. Ajax, just because he has a shield, can put around her to protect her while she's doing the buffs, and the shield can also reflect. She goes hand in hand also with Enzo because of the damage boost. So she gives him the boost, and he also gives her some damage, but it's more so buffing the DPSs that are in the group. So those two combination probably get you a sub 2 minute clear time for the boss if you were to do that. Once again, you can always take Eugen. It's Eugen, so it really doesn't matter. But if I was taking Luna, and I had a choice of who I'd want to take, it's probably going to be Ajax or Enzo, just for the fact that Enzo has the buff to the party where he gives more damage, crit, all that stuff. Ajax can also do the shield and reflect to protect her from taking damage while she's doing her rotation and her whole animation. Kyle once again is kind of in that same boat. He would be, if I had to choose, he'd probably be fourth out of these three up here, just because the fact that he also restores shields, which you kind of build on Luna, and she gets back when she does her enhanced steps and everything like that. So those are the two that I would have there. Next up, we can talk about Jaber, who's in a really good spot right now. He just did get touched for one of his glitches. You can take Jaber on any mission. He's not like in a bad spot, in my opinion, right now. He does clear very well. The characters that, if I was to take Jaber and when the hard dungeons come out, once again, this is all hard dungeon speculation, if it's actually going to be difficult. If it's not difficult, then it doesn't matter. But if you're taking support, the other support you want to team up with him, the Ajax, Enzo, Luna. Those would be the three. Probably in that, maybe switch these two around. You take Jaber, Enzo, Ajax, Luna is what I would look for as far as team comp position. If if I've taken a Jaber, I'd want one of these three characters to be paired up with me, so that way we can do more damage, or there's more. Like for instance, the healing turret, you put Ajax's reflect on there in front of the healing turret. You're the healing turret's taunting along with the reflect being bounced back to the enemy. If y'all, if y'all look at it that way. Once again, like I said, Luna buffs pretty much everybody for DPS, so it works hand in hand with Jaber. Since if you have both of his turrets out, he gets a damage increase for his gun on top of Luna's new mod buff, which also increases firearm attack. So it synergizes very well. Uh, so we went over those two, and let's talk about Enzo. Enzo, with the party buffs he gives, he's one of the more high powered DPS supports out of the group, based on his kit. So if you were to take Enzo and I had a choice of who I would want, of course I'm going to take Luna. That would be my number one choice just for the buffs that she gives. That's just giga damage with those two combined. Like there's no real argument against that. Like you just there's not an argument for it as to why not to take them. Like, of course, the Luna would have to be, skilled or whatever the case may be, not to die to get the buffs off. Second would be Eugen, just for Eugen's heals and the damage buff that he can give with the drone attached to Enzo or any other DPS as well. Of course, the damage amp. Third, I would take would be Jaber, for the same almost the same reasons. He does have a heal on his drone. You can drop Enzo on there. They help each other out with their damage. Next would be Ajax and then Kyle. Now, if this boss has, if you need a support, I mean, if you not a support, if you need a tankier character, this all just depends on how the dungeon's going to be run. Now, if it comes down to you needing a bullet sponge or somebody to protect you more, then these two get moved up to the front of the list. But we don't know how these dungeons are going to be, and like I said, this is just my speculation on if the dungeons are going to be hard and you need to pass DPS checks or whatever the case may be. These two end up going down the list for these three in front of them. Now we did Enzo, Luna, Eugen, Jaber. Now let's talk about Ajax. Ajax is pretty much a one-man wrecking crew. He doesn't really need anybody to be with him because he has so much defense and HP. But it does help him to have some sort of boost. So Enzo, in my opinion, would be the one to pair with him just for his gun damage, because I don't really see a whole lot of Ajaxes using their abilities to do damage. Is more so for setting up shields and reflex. So with Ajax being more of a gun-based descendant, I would have Enzo. I would have Enzo as the priority, then Luna, and then you could do Jaber, because Ajax can just stand in Jaber's turret, heal himself, won't have to worry about anything, eating all the damage. Then Eugen, then Kyle. Depending on what mod you have, I think it's just HP and defense that he mostly focuses in on. So you don't really have to worry about shields for the most part. So Kyle kind of gets moved down the list. But that's the order I would take these descendants in if I had a choice of the picks for the hard mode dungeons. And that's pretty much where it would stand. I mean, yes, you can move Jaber up, but since most Eugens that I've seen, and from what my experience playing Ajax, is that if you're using the shields for how they're basically designed to be used, you're going to want more gun damage, and so these two would benefit him more for gun damage for the boss fights. Now Kyle is a beefy boy as well, focuses more on shields. You can go damage Kyle, rest in peace, his bug that he had back in back in the preseason, which was really nice. He's more of a shield based character, so he thrives off of doing damage with the shields to hit the boss and things like that. So you're going to want a character that's going to increase his shields relatively quickly as he's stacking the shields up. So I think Eugen would be his priority choice for the dungeons, followed by Luna. for the skill power, attack buff, and everything, so he can fly in and headbutt people from his shields. And I think oh no, that's just specifically her. So these two will complement each other. So she's giving you the buff, and you're also replenishing her shields as well. Um, Enzo kind of would be farther down the list. So if I had to choose, it'd be like this specifically for the descendants I would take with Kyle. Be Eugen, Luna, Jaber, Enzo, then Ajax in that specific order. It's not really a tier list. It's just, preference according to which character I'm taking into these hard mode dungeons that are supposed to be coming out here in the next couple of weeks or so. So with that being said, like I said, Eugen gives him the best bang for his buck because he instantly restores shields. So Kyle's never in a bad, it can never be in a bad spot while he's doing his thing with his shields. Like I said, Luna and Kyle go hand in hand as far as what they do for each other. Kyle keeps Luna alive with the shield. Luna can also replenish her shields with her enhanced casting, and also give Kyle the skill attack, skill damage buff that he's needing for his ultimate, so he can fly and headbutt people. Jaber works with Kyle because Kyle can then sit on top of the turret. Once again, this whole taunting with Jaber's turret is really good for these two, Kyle and Ajax, because you can sit on top of the turret, put your shield up, absorb all the damage, and then you have your bonus for your shields. For Kyle, same thing with Ajax, except his will be reflection damage back to the boss. Enzo really wouldn't help Kyle out a whole lot. He would help out some for the gun damage, but his main thing is just stacking that shield to then use it to do damage. So these two would work very well with him. This would just be overkill in my opinion because you have somebody that absorbs the damage and then when that reflects, so they kind of counteract each other with their defensive moves that they use. So all in all, if you're taking Eugen, doesn't really matter. Luna, of course, has her specifics, and we've talked about that. I think these two would probably be the most sought after for the hard mode dungeons, and then the preference is going to be dealer's choice. However, since you're going to be running with randoms, my recommendation would be to take Eugen. If you're running with randoms, let me just say that right now. If you're running with randoms on the hard mode dungeons, I would say take a Eugen to keep everybody alive. Take a Jaber, then you take an Ajax, a Kyle, Enzo, then Luna, in that specific order. If you're going to be running those hard mode dungeons, plugging it. If you're running with a group of four, then it doesn't really matter. But if you had to take one character for it to make sure that you can get the clear regardless of time, I would take it in this specific order because most people tend to not pay attention as you go further down the list for these characters. Yes, I know Enzo can just do it off rip, but you want to keep people alive, so that's why these two are in the front of the class when you're going into the hard mode dungeons. A lot of people don't pay attention to Ajax and Kyle's abilities when they're deploying them because they're running around trying to do damage. A lot of people step out on Luna's abilities when she's trying to do her thing because they're all the way in Narnia doing, Lepic things or Haley things, whatever the case may be. I think a lot of people are starting to come around for Luna to be around her, so she's starting to get understood a lot more. And Enzo gives you all those buffs at the beginning to do your first rotation within those first 15 seconds. But all in all, those are my opinion. That's my opinion for what you'd want to do as far as the support category for going through these hard mode dungeons. Your pairings, the synergies, things of that nature. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and we'll see. We'll see you in the next one. And I'm out of here. Later.